Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm gonna be showing you the best settings for the brand new DJI Mini 5 Pro, as well as doing an entire beginner walkthrough from the second you get it out of the box to actually going out and flying. The most frustrating thing in the entire world is buying a drone and seeing how good the footage looks on the launch video and other people's content, and then when you go out and shoot content, it just doesn't look near as good. So the entire goal of this video is for that not to happen to you. I'm gonna be showing you all of the settings that the pros use to maximize the image they get out of this drone. And although the Mini 5 Pro is one of the cheaper drones on the market, the videos you can get out of this thing are insane. I cannot believe how good the image looks out of something that small. The Mini 4 Pro was already an amazing drone, and DJI really took it up a notch with the Mini 5. Right now, unfortunately, these are pretty hard to get a hold of in the US. I actually snagged one on my recent trip to Iceland, but they do sometimes pop up on sites like eBay and like Adorama randomly. I'm really hoping that DJI and the US government can figure things out soon so we can buy their drones again easily in the future. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so on the homepage, you're basically just gonna hit this blue button to go fly. And the first thing that you're gonna wanna mess with is the safety tab. So if you go to the three dots in the top right, hit that, go through safety. So basically the setting that I want to change here is the max altitude. So when they ship these things out, the preset height limit is basically like the legal limit for most places around the world, but they're not taking into account any canyons or mountains or anything like that. So I always set my height limit to the max. So I'm gonna move it up from 120 meters to 500. I'm gonna hit agree, and obviously make sure you're not breaking any local laws, but if you're flying down in a valley or up on a mountain or something like that, just make sure you stay under the regulation. The only other thing that's new on this tab in comparison to the Mini 4 Pro is now when you unfold the arms on the Mini 5, it automatically turns on, and then when you fold them back, it turns off. So you can turn that off if you want, but I actually really like that feature. I think it's super cool. Just make sure you take the gimbal off before you unfold it. Okay, next up, we're gonna go to the control tab, and essentially here, we're just gonna mess around with the gain and expo tuning. So we're gonna come here, and all of this stuff is pretty much gonna stay the same. The only thing that I do like to change is at the very bottom, which is the tilt smoothness. So I like to go anywhere from 10 to 12. So I'm gonna put this up at 10 on normal mode. And then where this becomes an actual problem is when you flip into sport mode, which is just a faster mode. It presets it at 0. So when you tilt the gimbal up, it's gonna be like really freaking fast. So we're gonna take that all the way up to 10 as well. You can check on the cine mode, it's even higher than that. It's at like 15. Okay, so let's move on to the camera itself. Hey guys, taking a quick break here to let you know that this video is brought to you by Artlist. And I wanna show you how Artlist is giving us access to tools that are super hard to get a hold of right now. If you make videos and you've never heard of Artlist, you're missing out. And they just introduced Sora 2. Sora 2 was just released, and it's making a ton of headlines because the videos you're able to create with it are so lifelike and a massive improvement from Sora 1. Just look at these side-by-side differences. It's crazy. Anyways, the only way that you're able to use Sora 2 right now is getting invited and then joining a waitlist. But on Artlist, you can use it right now. There's a lot of negative headlines surrounding AI right now, but for me as a filmmaker, it's super helpful when I'm making a video and I'm just missing a clip or two. So let's say I'm making a documentary piece about river pollution and I just need one more aerial shot of a polluted river somewhere. Flying somewhere like that and actually filming it myself would require thousands and thousands of dollars. So let's just try to generate one. I'm just gonna go to artlist.io, navigate to the AI image and video tab, select the Sora 2 Pro model, pick my aspect ratio, time, and resolution. You can upscale it later. And then I'll just type my prompt in. And boom, just like that, I saved thousands and thousands of dollars just with this one tool. The craziest part is that is just one of the many amazing tools that Artlist offers for creators. I'm talking copyright-free music, sound effects, stock footage, templates, plugins, and more. If you want to try Sora 2 for yourself today, just go to the link in the description and you'll get 2 free months of Artlist on me. Huge thanks to Artlist for supporting creators and just giving us access to tools that are incredibly hard to access otherwise. All right, now let's get back to the video. So you can access these camera settings on the main page, or you can do them up here. For simplicity, I'm actually gonna do it on just the main page right here. So we're gonna switch to video mode by hitting that, switching to video, and then I'll get to photo mode right after. All right, so as far as video quality, the images you can get out of this drone are pretty insane, largely due to the 1-inch sensor that they introduced. Like, this is just an absolutely ginormous camera for such a small drone. But this camera is freaking huge and it has a massive sensor, which is amazing for us. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is, if you notice down in the bottom right corner, there is a button that says auto. So we wanna take it off auto mode and get into the pro settings. All right, so the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is hit this 4K 60 button, and just starting from the top. So the white balance is kind of just how blue or yellow your image is, and most of the time when I'm flying outside, 5500 is absolutely perfect. The only time that it's different is if you're indoors. So if I switch this off of auto and switch this to 5500, you can see all of these lights inside are super yellow. So if you're shooting indoors or something like that, hit auto and basically see what it automatically adjusts the white balance to, and then turn it off of auto, because you don't want it to be adjusting the white balance throughout your flight. Sometimes even when you're outside, if you're tilted down at the ground and pan up, the white balance is slightly different. So you definitely want to make sure it's not on auto. Outside, most of the time 5500. Inside, hit the auto button, see what it selects, and then turn it off auto. As far as resolution and frame rate, so it comes right out of the box set to 4K 60. Most of the time when I'm shooting, I shoot at 4K 30 frames per second. 4K 30 just displays the best on Instagram and YouTube. Once in a while, I'll shoot 24 if I'm shooting a project where the rest of the footage is shot at 24 frames per second, but 90% of the time I'm shooting 4K 30. If you do want to shoot a little bit more slow-mo, you can bump that up to 60 frames per second, but you can also shoot higher than 60 frames per second, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So for now, I'm gonna put that at 30. And then as far as color goes, this is a really big one. So if you're someone who isn't going to be taking your videos and editing them on your computer, the normal mode is just fine. It looks really solid. The dynamic range is pretty good. But if you are someone who wants to maximize the amount of color you can get out of your image, you're gonna wanna be shooting in D-Log-M. D-Log-M is essentially gonna give you a much flatter image, so it's gonna look kind of gray and washed out. But with that, you're gonna have a lot more flexibility in post to color grade it exactly how you want. HLG is sort of an HDR mode, and honestly, I never use that just because I like the D-Log-M mode better, just because I'm post-processing it. So you'll notice if you do select D-Log-M, you can actually turn this off, the color display assist, and you can see what the actual image will look like. So it's a little bit more gray, but if you just mess around with it in post a little bit, you can turn it back on. Basically, the color display assist is just showing you what the footage could look like, and I think it's way more fun and just like more exciting to fly when you know what the image could look like. Okay, so moving down, the last setting that you're gonna have on this page is the storage space. Right now, I don't have an SD card in there, but there's actually 42 gigabytes of internal space on this drone, which is amazing. I think the Mini 4 Pro had like 3 gigabytes, so if you forgot your SD card, you could literally get like a couple shots and then you were out of space. So I actually love that there's more space there. But if I was actually going out flying, I'd throw an SD card in there. All right, so next up, we're going to go to this next tab. And in addition to another setting that I'm gonna show you in a second, this is kind of like the most important tab on the whole drone. So how ISO and shutter speed work is they kind of balance each other out. Basically, inside right now is a pretty low light environment. You always want your ISO to be as low as humanly possible. So ideally I'd want it down at 100, but as you can see, it's a little bit dark. So the drone has compensated up to 400. And on this drone, you can actually shoot pretty solid videos on like 800 ISO. It has a much bigger sensor, so the low light is a lot better, but just try to keep your ISO as low as possible. So moving on to shutter speed, if you notice when I switched to 800 ISO, the shutter speed actually went up, and that's because these are constantly trying to balance out each other, but we want to be shooting in full manual. So I'm going to turn that off, and essentially the rule for shutter speed is called the 180-degree rule. So you always want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. So I'm shooting at 4K 30 right now, so I want my shutter speed to be 1/60. If I was shooting at 4K 60, I'd want my shutter speed to be 1/120. And genuinely, I cannot stress enough how how important shutter speed is, because what shutter speed does is it allows you to have motion blur in your video. So essentially in real life, like if you take your hand and you go like this, it doesn't look clear the whole time. It's moving, you see that motion blur. So if you don't have motion blur in your videos, it doesn't look very good because it doesn't look lifelike. So you always want to make sure your shutter speed is double your frame rate. But you'll notice inside, it's fine, it works. But you'll notice if I look outside, it's insanely bright out. So you need something to balance that to allow you to have that shutter speed. You can mess around, like for example, I can take this ISO and bring it down to 100. But even then it's still too bright. And that's where ND filters come in. So this is a pack of ND filters, and for any drone pilot, it is so important to have these. Basically, it's a pack of 3. These ones are from DJI, but there's also ones out there from companies like Polar Pro and Freewell. I'm just gonna go ahead and guess that I'm gonna need an ND32. And you'll be able to see on the screen that if I put this ND filter over the camera, boom, it's not fully locked in there, but you'll see I can just balance out the exposure to make sure that my shutter speed is locked. And again, after you do all that, just make sure ISO is as low as possible. 100 is the most ideal setting. Okay, next up, I wanna talk about a really important setting as well. So we're gonna hit the 3 dots again, go to camera, and as you can see, you have a lot of similar settings up here in regards to color and format and stuff like that. But what you also have here is grid lines. So as you can see on my screen right now, there is these cross grid lines. You can also have a diagonal grid line. So it's just kind of to help you out to keep framing perfect. I usually like just this grid line. So I'm gonna turn that on. You can also do just a single dot, come down here. And then another super important thing is in this style tab. So hit that. Basically anything with a small sensor like an action camera or a small drone, for some reason, the manufacturer usually turns the sharpness up really high and it just gives it this like small sensor look. So you're gonna wanna turn the sharpness down. I usually do -2 or -1 because basically with sharpness, you can always add sharpness, but you can never take it away. And with that, you're just gonna get a nice, soft, clean looking image. Noise reduction, unless you're shooting in really low light environments, I always keep that at 0, but you can bump that up or down if you want. But for now, I'm gonna keep it at 0. Okay, now I wanna show you guys the slow-mo setting. So I'm gonna come hit the video and then I'm gonna switch to slow motion. So now when you go into the same tabs that we were before, you'll notice you're going to have the option for 1080, 240 frames per second, which is like insanely slow, or you can switch to 4K, 120. If I was shooting slow-mo, I would always shoot 4K 120 just because there's so much more detail in the image, and 120 frames per second allows you to slow it down 4 times, which is more than enough for most situations. Again, all this other stuff is the same. You can either choose normal if you're not gonna be editing your footage in post, or you can choose D-Log-M if you are. And if you guys are planning on editing your footage on the computer and you wanna get that cinematic look on your videos like you see here on this channel, there's a link down in the description below for my LUT pack, which is basically just a pack of 4 super easy video filters that you can just add on top of your footage and just give it that professional cinematic look. And in here, you're also gonna have a bunch of other modes. So you're gonna have master shots, quick shots, hyperlapse, pano, all that stuff. I'm not gonna get super into depth about those in this video, but I do wanna talk about photo. If you guys do want to see videos on those modes, definitely let me know in the comments down below. So when it comes to photos, there's one incredibly important setting that you need to change, and that's switching from JPEG to RAW. RAW photos, basically similar to like a D-Log-M video, they're not going to look quite as vibrant right out of the camera, but the dynamic range is much better and you're going to have way more flexibility when you're editing it. So even if you're someone who's just planning on taking the photos straight from the drone over to your phone and posting them, I still would recommend shooting JPEG plus RAW just in case you want to take them onto the computer and edit them later. Because if you want to get the most out of them when you're editing them, you need to be shooting in RAW. So I'm going to switch to RAW. Aspect ratio, I always go 4:3 just because it has the most information. If you switch to 16:9, you'll see it's a wider format, but it just sort of cuts stuff off the top. As far as resolution goes, I always switch to 50 megapixels. The only problem with that is it takes a little bit more buffer time when you take each photo just because it has so much information in it, but the photo is gonna look way better, so it's worth it for me. Okay, and then the last thing is kind of the same as the video tab. To be honest, shutter doesn't matter quite as much for photos. If you're doing anything anything that's moving around, you definitely want your shutter speed to be more than like 1/100, or else the photo will kind of look blurry. The only reason that the auto is selecting 1/20 right now is just because we're indoors and it's pretty dark in here. ISO, similar principles apply. I would never really go over 800. As you can see, that helps me out with the shutter speed. Dump the shutter speed even more. You can see you can brighten things out. It's just, again, kind of a balance. If your shutter speed goes crazy high because you're in a super bright environment, don't worry, that's totally fine with photos. It mostly matters with video. All right, guys, so that is it for the setting walkthrough of the Mini 5 Pro. If you do have any questions, just make sure you leave them in the comments down below. I'll also leave a link to my LUT pack in the description down below. I really hope this video helped you guys out, and if it did, make sure you leave a like button, and if you do like the video, I will leave a photo of a really cute penguin at the end of this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.